Okay, so in this demonstration we're going to make a version of this card, and the focal verse that we're using is the Big Birthday verse, All the Best. So this set is split into 3 sentiments, as all of them are. So you've got your main verse, you've got a smaller sentiment which obviously can be used separately on any cards you like, and then you've got kind of a banner sentiment on this one as well. So we're using that one for the focal point, and we're also going to be using the new Textural Temptations set, which is an A5 set from Phil. Obviously the stamps are bigger than they look in the packaging. Really cool stamps. You'll find that you'll use these in lots and lots of different occasions. So we're going to be for this one, I used this one paper from the new Celestial Brushstrokes paper pack, but we're going to do a different colourway from the other pack that you get in the set, which is the Terra Nova, and we're going to be using this particular paper here, which is all the papers have like 2 tones to them, and this is kind of a like a tattered rose if you took a new Distress Oxides, kind of fading into like a bundled sage colour. So those are the oxides that we're going to be using. Put those to one side. So I've already gone ahead and done loads of cutting out, and I've used the Double D Boss rounded corner squares, and I've got a fairly small one here which will fit my verse, and I've popped it into my Stamp Perfect. I dusted it with an anti-static bag, and we're going to be stamping with the Wow embossing ink. Like I say, I've already dusted it with my anti-static bag. The beauty, obviously, as many of you know, of using the stamp press is that we can go in for a second time. Now, you don't necessarily see it on your papers when you've got your embossing ink, but you can still go back. If you kind of put it rigidly into the corners there, you can still go back and stamp a second time once you've embossed. It quite often happens, for me anyway, if I'm using the stamp for a first time on a day, or the first time ever, then sometimes it's not absolutely perfect, but we can go in and do it a second time. It's not a problem at all. Give it a good old press, and we'll take it out. I must make sure that I put the right ink on. There's nothing more disappointing than wanting to emboss with white and putting clear on, which I did the other day. So read the labels properly. So we're using the pure white. I quite like using white on these papers. You'll find me doing it quite a lot. So can you just about see it's there? Okay, so pop that in there, and we'll do a little bit of heat setting. Hopefully it's not too noisy. So always warm your heat gun up. Obviously we don't want it flying around, and follow your sentiment round as it goes. So you can see this white really pops on these papers. Like I say, if there's a little bit of an area that you're not too happy about, you can pop it back into your stamping press and apply a second coat. But that was fine to me. There we go. Really beautiful font. So that's our first part. Now we're going to do a little bit of decorating with the textures. I have for the inside already gone ahead and stamped that second part. So this is obviously the graduation of the paper, going from that very pale kind of tattered rose colour into the green. So it's nice to have little changes in shades for the different parts of your card. And we're also going to be decorating this too. Let's see which way we're going to do it. Let's do these 2 pieces first. And I'll top on the embossing powder before I knock it over. So it's a good idea to use the round blocks for this. They just fit in my hand quite nicely, and that's my favourite, I think. I don't know. I love that one. I just love all of them. They're just absolutely brilliant. Let's go for this kind of spotty one to begin with. This is like a distressed spots. And we'll go with our bundled sage first, which is our darker one, because it's quite nice to have the smaller images done separately. We've done in the darker colour. Makes sense, Julia. And we're just going to stamp around the edges. Move my stamp around because obviously I've got ink here, there and everywhere. So you see one inking, I'm going all the way around the edges, and it's very subtle. Hopefully you can see it. A little bit there and a little bit there. And we do a little bit around here. Obviously on here it's not going to be as noticeable. Hardly see it, but it is there. And then we'll swap that out for a minute. And we go for our tattered rose instead. And let's go for, this is a cool one. This is like stars and grungy scribbling. I don't know how to describe it. It's just really cool. I'm going for my smaller block with that one. So tap it. And this will show up more on this one. Again, it's very subtle. You're probably thinking, oh, I can't see that. We can always go graduate to the Victorian Velvet if we want to. Don't know if you can see. There is colour in there. It'll be more obvious on this one. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Just about. I can see it. You guys probably can't. But obviously you're getting the drift of putting this around the edges. I can go around that bit there, and we'll have a little bit popping in there as well. So that's decorated that. And we will ink around the edges as well. And we'll ink around the edges on this one with the opposite colour. So we're going for the bundled sage around your pinker one. It is a good idea probably to wait for the distress to dry before you do this, because obviously it stays open for a little while. And then we'll go around with the tattered rose on this one. Hopefully we'll be able to see this. If it wasn't there, you wouldn't see it. That's my excuse anyway. It does mean that you can get away with not being perfect when it's not very visible. Okay, so there's my two panels all done. And then we're going to have a bit more fun with this one. This is where you'll see it more probably because we're on white. So we'll use the same kind of similar stamps, probably plus a few extras. And for this one, because I want it to be more vivid, I'm actually going to mist the stamp with a little bit of water as well. So off to one side, just give it a mist. And we can again go off the edges and move it around. See how grungy it is? It's really cool. A little bit more ink. Building your backgrounds up. Have a little bit over there. So I'm not really thinking about it. I just want to make sure that I cover this frame. And then we go for the I don't know, the grungy stars or whatever you want to call them. Give these a quick mist. Doesn't have to be perfect. Let's go again. Another mist. Got a dirty fingerprint in the middle, but that doesn't matter because that's going to get covered up. And we'll pull in another stamp now. Let's go for this lovely sort of flower one. I'll pull in a different size block for this. Let's pull we'll have a mix. Let's have a mix of colours on this one, just so I can mess my oxide ink pads up a bit. Don't worry about your oxides, they sort themselves out. I don't know how, but they just do. Again, mix that one with water as well, and we have that coming in off the edge. We'll see if we can get a second one out of that. I might regret this, but we can always put flowers around it. Yeah, that works. And we just go once more. I'm just going to give that a little bit of a wipe so I don't get my oxides all wet. Again, tattered rose. Getting in a mess on my craft sheet now. The thing is, because these stamps are so grungy, because that's quite grungy there, that could be part of the stamp. It's a dirty mark, but it could be part of the stamp. So we just go up there with that. I think that's my background covered now, because don't forget what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to, this is the olive grove, and that's going to sit on there. So that's all we need to do as far as the stamping's concerned. And then I think what we'll do, because we're matting it onto a green card, we'll actually use the tattered rose to go around the edges. So it's not all, I want it to be pretty. I don't want this to be a card from man, because I'm going to add flowers to it. So I want it to be pretty, but I just wanted to show you that the other paper pack that's the Terra Nova, that can be pretty as well. It doesn't have to be more for men's cards. So just adding this around the edges just to finish off my background. Okay. So I'm going to do a little bit of matting and layering, and then we'll come back and we'll go on to the next stage. So I've done some matting and layering, and here's where we're at. I did faff around quite a lot in the break, and I decided that I did need some Victorian velvet. So I've added some to the topper piece, and I've used this stamp here from the Textural Temptations set in Victorian velvet, just dabbing around the edge. And then I've also added some stars to the bottom layer, that stamp there, again with Victorian velvet, and I've actually edged both pieces with a little bit of Victorian velvet as well, just to brighten it up a little bit. So I've matted and layered, again using all the dies are the rounded corner double debossed squares. As you can see, they're all going to mat and layer beautifully. And I've actually made my card blank, and it is a proper card with it as well, and that's out of the pure white card. And I've cut two of the larger of the squares, and on one of them on the back I've scored 1 centimetre from the edge, and that's going to make my fold. I've only just glued it, so be careful with it. And that makes my fold, and then I've popped the sentiment piece on the inside, and again I've added some of the dots with the Victorian velvet and gone round the edge, so that makes my nice inside. Of course you could actually flip it and have this on the front and the verse on the inside, wherever you wanted. The versatility's there with the sets. So that's where I'm at with my card, and obviously, you know, it's lovely as it is, but we want to pretty it up, so we're going to add some flowers to it. So I've got a bunch of flowers here, and again I'm just faffing around in the break as well, and we're using the Sweetheart flowers. I'm only using the dies, I'm not using the stamps on this particular card, and this is what's left from my card from cutting out that front topper and the bit on the inside. So, and there's still a little bit left, so from the 1A4 sheet you can do all of your die cutting. And so I've kind of mixed and matched, so I've got some out of the sort of pinky colour in the paper and some out of the green colour in the paper, and then on half of them I've actually stamped some of the texture stamps. So the stamps I've used on here are that lovely like Harlequin, or I think it's a Harlequin, anyway, the diamonds background there, and we've used that grungy one which is going to be so useful, the sort of distressed dots. And I've also these two flowers here are out of that star one. So the idea is that I'm going to use kind of contrasting colours and put them together. So obviously they're 4-petal flowers, and so those two would sit together. They're the same size, but a contrast in the colour, and that one's stamped and one isn't. So I'll just show you how to shape one, and then I'll shape the rest, and then we'll stick them all together. If I can put my hands on my tweezers, there they are. So we've got the tweezers on the show, and these are a set of 3 tweezers. The ones I use the most are the really pointy ones to shape my flowers, and then the rounded ones to pick up my pearls. And incidentally, there are some new pearls on the show too. So for this one, I mean, you can do it either way. You can shape them so that they go that way, but I'm going to shape these particular ones so that they cup up this way. Just going around the edge, and the paper does, you know, take this quite nicely. It's 190 GSM, I believe. So it's a really good weight of paper. So then this one will cup as well. You can, of course, if you want to, if you didn't want so many flowers, you can just stack all the different sizes on top of one another and make a couple of really big flowers. So that's just going to get glued in there, and when you press it down, it's going to shape up nicely. So I'm going to get all my flowers ready, and then we'll come back and pop them on the card. Okay, so I've shaped all my flowers, stacked them up, mixed up which one is on top, whether it's the patterned or the plain one on top, and added some pearls in the centre. And I think I forgot to mention that I did put a little bit of Victorian velvet just on the edges of the petals before I actually shaped them. So we're going to just pop our card, finish putting our card together now. And I've cut 2 pairs of the Lush leaves out, and these are the double debossed again. You've got lovely detail there on the leaves. So we're going to I've already put some glue on here, some of Phil's glue. So I'm just going to pop these on my card. And we've got rights and lefts. So we'll have them a bit separate and kind of up like that, and then we'll pop the other pair opposite. Obviously you can just have one set of flowers if you want to. This is going to have less flowers. There's only going to be 2 on here because I've got 6 flowers and I want to put 1 inside so that the inside isn't too plain. And let's put all the glue on together. Normally I'd put my pearls on after I've put my my flowers on, but obviously I don't want you to watch me putting pearls on. I put white ones on because I don't have the new ones just yet. But have a look at the new ones that are on the show. They're the kind of 2-tone ones, and see some of those will match your papers. And I will pop this big chappy just here. Push down on the pearl to make sure he's nice and set, and then we'll have the opposite big one up here, just about there, I think, offset slightly. Then the next size one is going to come down here, and then that next sized one is just going to come down, cascading down that side there, and then the penultimate one is going to tuck in there. Make sure they're nice and set, and then on the inside we're going to pop this one. I don't normally put flowers on the inside, but I think it's a little bit plain. So, I mean, these will obviously, they're flattened down a little bit. Just be careful that you don't push it together, the front on too much, because obviously I've got a little bit of glue there that's still wet from the pearl, and you don't want the front to stick to the back. So that's my card. It stands up and everything. I'll bring in the original one as well, so you can compare the 2 different colour tones. See if I can line them up for you to see. So this one is from the Terra Nova, and the paper's from the Terra Nova, and this one, the papers are from the Celestial. So there we go. 2 very pretty cards.